Welcome to No Budget, the show for filmmakers with no budget by filmmakers with no budget. I'm Milo Dennison, and joining me, as always, are Claire Milan.
Hello.
And Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
Today, we are joined by Elliot and Zander Weaver, also known as the Weaver Brothers. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much for having us. It's wonderful to be here.
So the guys made a great film called Cosmos, and we'll kind of get into that. Go ahead, Claire.
Yeah, so I saw we have a mutual friend, and he showed me your film, and there's a little really great behind the scenes piece you did on YouTube as well. And so that's how I found out about you, and I told the guys, and yeah, really impressed. We're no budget filmmakers ourselves, so it's so lovely to speak to you, and and find out exactly how you made this film and more about yourselves as well. So what got you into filmmaking in the beginning?
Well, obviously, first of all, thank you very much for having us on. It's a pleasure to be here and talk with fellow filmmakers about what we all love doing. We got into filmmaking. Well, we fell in love with films, as a lot of people do when they're young, watching Disney and Star Wars and a lot of Spielberg, Hook, films like that. And when we were very young, we sort of picked up our parents' video camera and started playing with it, and started making little films with our action figures and with each other and our friends from school. And that combination of loving movies and then finding a way to really play with storytelling ignited our passion for filmmaking. And honestly, that's never really left us. And the first film we made together, we were about 5 and 3 years old. So we were very, very young, didn't really know anything about the wider world of cinema, but just really enjoyed that storytelling experience. And like I said, that's never really left us. We've grown up together filmmaking, and it's one of the reasons we think that we've remained so close as brothers, because we've had this wonderful thing that binds us.
It's like the Coen brothers. You could be the next, Coen or something, the Weaver brothers.
Who knows? You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
So thank you.
And so with Cosmos, where's the idea come from?
We, interestingly, before we made Cosmos, we made a series of documentaries. So we were a production company, and we made a series of independent documentaries for channels like Discovery Channel and PBS and things like that. And they were all about space. They were all about NASA and the Apollo program. And we were just, we loved that era of the space race. We love space in general, sci-fi. And we were so in awe, not just of the astronauts, but of the actual ground control teams, the mission control, the engineers and the scientists. We'd listen to them over the radio, talking to the astronauts in space, and they were so level-headed and cool. And we just thought, we've always been passionate about narrative movies. We always wanted to move into feature films. So when we were starting to put ideas together for what story we could tell on a no-budget kind of scale, we just wondered, could we put those scientists in the spotlight? Because they're usually the nerdy ones that no one really wants to see, and some hero takes over. Actually, in the real world we live in, people like engineers and scientists are the kind of real heroes. So we wondered if we could make them the heroes of a feature film themselves. So
especially nowadays, it's like, I know in the UK as well, there's always the scientists are the celebrities at the moment.
Yeah.
It's kind of a trendy thing, So.
Exactly, for sure.
And we have a scientist here. He's kind of plays guitar. And he's like a bit of a rock star as well. So he does that on the side, and he's a scientist as well. So he's like a trendy guy,
Yeah, brilliant.
So with the writing process, so do you have a background in writing? You made films. What was the writing process like for this film?
We don't have sort of an official background in writing, as it were. We didn't study it at university or anything. Our background in it, I guess, is just we've always written our little scripts, and as we've progressed from young filmmakers writing 2 or 3 page scripts, we've progressed and made shorts, and then worked professionally as directors, so written documentary scripts and voiceover scripts and stuff like that. And then moving into narrative filmmaking, script writing, we've just read a lot of screenplays, read a lot of screenwriting books, and our process was one of just going through the motions that I guess every first-time filmmaker goes through, where you're looking for a story to tell, but the chances are someone's not going to come along and present that amazing screenplay to you and go, hey, would you make my movie? You're actually in
in the driving seat in generating those ideas yourself. So we just did a lot of research and a lot of practice, and Cosmos was actually our second feature screenplay that we'd written. We'd written one beforehand for another film that we tried to get off the ground many years before Cosmos, but we put that project on ice to develop Cosmos. So yeah, it was sort of our second attempt at doing a feature script, and we wrote it together. We generate the ideas together.
I don't really know. I have huge admiration for people who write on their own, because I don't know.
It's tough.
We find it really, really beneficial to be able to bounce ideas off each other. We have very similar tastes in movies, and yeah, I can't imagine how hard it must be to write a movie script on your own. So,
so did you find you very similar writing styles? Like, did they mesh together, or was there kind of one, complex?
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, again, we've grown up together, love the same kind of movies, so we really inspire each other. And sometimes I'll write a scene and then Zander will write the next one, or sometimes I'll write a scene and then he rewrites it, or he writes it, and vice versa. We don't have any firm lines in the sand that we do or don't cross. We just do the process, do it together. We write together and inspire each other, and
it's great because at the end we can't remember who came up with what. No. So
that's really
no one can take credit. Great.
And so one thing I noticed, the actors you cast, they were just really, they're brilliant. They really suited the roles. So how did you find the actors for Cosmos?
Yeah, that was a lengthy process for us. So all in pre-production and development on Cosmos, we were doing other stuff. We were working as freelancers and making documentaries. So it actually took us a year to find the right people for the movie. And we did all the kind of traditional stuff. We tried casting websites and things like that. But ultimately, all three of the main cast were found just like crossing paths in real life on jobs and things. So Arjun is actually, who plays Roy in the film, he's actually a cameraman for television, and our dad had worked with him many years ago, and he said, well, I'm pretty sure Arjun does some acting. So we got in touch with him and he auditioned. He was perfect. Josh, we were looking for Harry. Josh plays Harry, and we found this guy on Twitter who, he was an actor, and he'd been cast in this theatre play, but he'd hurt his back, so he couldn't be in the play. He'd been sidelined, but he was so passionate about acting and storytelling that he was blogging the whole process to document it. And we just thought, if this guy loves acting so much, then in order, that he would blog about it, even though he couldn't be in it. It's a great sign. So we got him on board. He did an audition, was perfect. And again, Tom, we just crossed paths with him. So I think something we've definitely learnt from Cosmos, very unique because it was a total no budget movie, but for other people out there who are looking to make movies without budgets, definitely just keep your eyes open to non-conventional routes to finding actors, because they're out there.
Yeah, and it's so important, isn't it, to get the right cast, even because you might have a brilliant script and cinematography and everything, but if the actors don't come across well, or they're miscast, or even they're not good actors, it can really be detrimental.
It can be, and we were so pleased that these guys, none of them knew each other before the film, and they gelled really well, and they became friends. And we've really, even though we wrapped filming Cosmos in the summer of 2016, so it's almost about 5 years since we finished filming, we have a WhatsApp group, we talk to each other daily, we're still so close. So it's lovely that we found these three strangers, and through the film, they've got lifelong friendships out of it. So that camaraderie and that friendship, that chemistry you see on camera, hopefully, was genuine. They started as not knowing each other, and we shot the film in sequence. So as their relationship deepened, as the film went on, that was reflected on off camera as well as on camera.
Yeah, because it definitely came across on camera. You could tell they were buddies. I'm just wondering as well about the crew and the team around you. How did you get everyone together?
Yeah, so the actual crew behind Cosmos on location, it was Elliot, it was myself, and our mom. So just three people on location. We had friends every now and again, maybe, I don't know, 10% of the time might come and do a smoke machine for us, or put some lights up or something to help out. But that was it. Yeah, so a crew of three. And in post-production, we did everything ourselves except for the music. We had an amazing composer come in called Chris Davey. So it wasn't too hard getting the crew on board. Just had to convince our mom to help out.
Very important. Yeah.
I'm curious on that one. So did one of you do sound and the other do camera? And how did you decide who did what?
Well, a bit like the writing, honestly, we just juggle. If one of us is in the right place to shoot at the time, one of us will hop on the camera. If one of us is, rigging lights and dealing with the sound mic setup, then maybe Zander might jump on the camera, and he kind of got there first, really. But there's no sort of divvying up roles. It's just whoever was right for that shot at that particular moment. And
he could squeeze into the car.
Yeah, who had the most patience with the camera or something at that particular time. But sometimes we talk to people and they say, how does that work directing together? Is there a power struggle, or are there arguments and stuff? And honestly, it's not really like that. We have our disagreements in terms of creativity, like, I think we should shoot this way, or I think the eyeline should be this way, or whatever. But in the end, it's not about ego. It's about what's best for the film, and the best idea wins. And we just work together, don't we? We just direct and go for it. It
works okay, yeah.
I don't really know how people do it on their own,
no,
actually,
I don't.
Because to be able to, in a moment where you're trying to figure something out, to be able to turn to effectively someone on the set that has basically the same authority that you do, the same power to say yes or no. When you're working in a professional environment, as I'm sure you guys will know, or people listening, the director kind of has the final say. So no matter what people might suggest, in the end, whether their decision is the right one or the wrong one, they can just plow forward with it. But when you've got another director sitting next to you who goes, no, it doesn't move anywhere, there's no bulldozing anyone over. In the end, the best idea has to be arrived at, and as a result, I think better things come from it. So
in that scenario, so let's say you both had an idea for a shot or something like that. Did you shoot both ways and then decide in the edit which looked better, or did you decide at the time and basically say, nope, really, I'm sure this is the better shot?
Yeah, we rarely disagree, to be honest. So that didn't happen very often, and the whole movie was storyboarded beforehand, so we just followed the blueprint, really. But if there are ever any kind of, I guess, disagreements, but that's a bit of a strong word, if we both have different ideas, we tend to just pick, like, literally just discuss it there and then and pick the one that feels right to us. There's usually a right answer in the moment, whether it's that's going to be quicker to set up, or whether that's going to be better for the story or whatever. There's usually something that is apparent in the moment. We've never found ourselves like just a log ahead, like no.
The only thing that seems to be an occurring thing is we will go away and we might storyboard two ideas individually. I'll storyboard a little sequence, and Zander will storyboard the same sequence, and we'll come together. And again, because our influences are so similar, we've grown up watching the same movies, our shots will be identical. The only difference will be we will have planned the action in opposite directions. So I'll have a guy walking through the door on the left of frame and walking across the frame in the direction right of frame. And Zander will have the opposite. And then the only thing we have to do is we have a little argument about who's got that right and why that matters, that the car moves from left to right and not right to left. But it's never really the shot. It's more, no, it's got to go this way. No, it's got to go that way. That's about it, really. It's quite interesting. Weird.
We should have done this like a police interview, had you in separate rooms. So.
Yeah.
He said you're an asshole.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
For anyone who listening or watching, the whole film takes place at night. So from a technical aspect, that's generally considered pretty hard to shoot, especially with a very minimal budget. So what did you shoot, like, camera wise, and like, how did you light some of the sequences?
Sure. So traditionally, you're right. Filming at night might seem a lot, but it is a lot more work. You've got to put lights up and you've got to construct the imagery more than using available daylight. The reason we did that was because we felt we could actually put a lot more production value into the film by obscuring a lot of things that would make the film look the budget that it was. So, and that's not our cleverness. I remember there's a very famous interview with Ridley Scott talking about Blade Runner when he was on the street set and he got there and they'd constructed it and he was like, oh, this looks a bit naff, you know, okay, well, we'll film it at night and we'll put loads of rain or smoke in it and we'll film it all on a long lens and it'll look amazing. And obviously it looks stunning. So that trick of hiding things in the shadows, I think gave us a lot more production value than perhaps was there on the day. So that was sort of the conceptual decision there. But in terms of the camera, we shot on the original Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, which is, it came out in 2013 and it shoots in 1080p. So it's just a standard HD camera. And at the time when we bought it for another job, it was £600. So it is probably the cheapest cinema type camera on the marketplace. And we get asked a lot of questions like, did you shoot in 4K? Did you shoot in RAW? Did you shoot in, and we didn't, we just shot it in standard 1080p and went with it, you know, and not once were we asked by our distributor or any of the sales process what the resolution was. All that was the main consideration was the story, which was fantastic. And yeah, we shot on that camera and we had some panel lights, LED panel lights, and it was just about trying to be as creative as possible with the constraints that we had. Really.
Yeah, for the exteriors, we had 3 LED panel lights, and if we could get power, which we couldn't always get power, we had a blonde as well. So that was all that we had, and everything else was torches, sometimes car headlights, sometimes phones, and then all the interior of the car was shot in a friend's garage, so we could shoot all through the day, black out the garage, and not have to shoot through the night instead. So yeah, that was yeah. I think it helps. Weirdly, for some reason, with our shorts and stuff before we made Cosmos, we always seem to set stuff at night and in the dark because I just think it offers you this creativity and an ability to sculpt stuff and hide and obscure and highlight things and have fun with the lighting. So
it's very moving.
Yeah, there's a perceived production value that, like Elliot said, if you shot in the day, it won't be there.
Yeah. Well, I think there is something too, like if you limit yourself in certain ways, it forces you to be creative in a good way and come up with interesting stuff. Like, yeah, I've noticed there were a few shots where the lights are on the car and I'm like, yeah, in real life, I don't think they do that. But like, exactly. But yeah, it worked, you know, cause I'm looking at it from a filmmaking standpoint. Yeah. But there were shots in there with how you guys lit the radio thing that sat on top of the car, you know, so it had that light coming off of it that could kind of help keep the scene and create some depth in there, which worked really nice. And some of the stuff coming out from inside the car. So it worked really well. So that's why I liked the way you lit that because, and it works because it's helping create that suspense where everything around is pretty dark for the most part. And so you're kind of going in and out of the light nicely, which worked for that.
Thank you. I agree. I think it's quite easy for people to assume that limitations are a bad thing. And actually, I think when the sky's the limit, it's quite paralyzing as well. You can go like, I can do anything. I've got the money and the resources to do anything, tell any story. And that can be quite scary. It's like staring at a blank canvas or a blank page when you're starting to write. And actually, I think being given a framework of you've got no budget and you've got to tell a story with minimal characters in minimal locations, your brain starts firing. You're given a kind of target to work towards. And I think that's why we see some directors who go from indies to big Hollywood blockbusters and their work seems to degrade because they can suddenly just solve all their problems with money. So yeah.
I could think of a few right off the top of my head where it was like they need to go back to small films.
Yeah.
On the more on the technical aspect, did you guys, like you did mention you did a lot of documentaries, and is that where your knowledge of astronomy and stuff came from for the technical aspects of the film? And like, you know, the radio frequency 1420, is that something specific? Is that that's used in radio frequencies?
Yes. So as Zander said, we spent several years doing these NASA documentaries, and it really did ignite a personal interest in space and astronomy. We got a telescope and started to fall in love with that hobby, and that way of life, that way of looking at the world that we live in. So a lot of the technical elements in the film, we weren't well versed in radio astronomy before we started writing Cosmos, but we did a lot of research, we read a lot of things online, and we tried to really ground the film in with a few leaps of faith, obviously, because it is a science fiction movie, but really ground it in the realities of that world. And so if an amateur astronomer was to come across a signal, what would they do? How would they verify it? They would scroll away from the signal that they're on and then scroll back, and if it's still there, it's not just a bug in the tuner or something. It's actually on that radio frequency. So we did our research and we spoke to a few people and tried our best to make it seem grounded in science. And 1420 is an actual frequency that is a dead band really in the electromagnetic spectrum. And so the theory is that we know that as an intelligent species, we've been able to work that out. And the theory is that another intelligent species would also, if they're capable of receiving or transmitting, they understand maths, they've done their own science, and they would go, well, in the noisy world of space, or the noisy arena of space, the best place to transmit something would probably be in this quiet zone, and that's probably where people will be listening. So there's a lot of little nods to the real process of searching for extraterrestrial life in the film.
It's interesting stuff. Like, I also curious about the driving sequence towards the end. It's the racing sequence through the city. So obviously you guys didn't have much money to close off streets and shoot this stuff. So I'm curious the process of getting that shot, because it was really believable in how it was done. So did you coordinate with friends' cars to drive past, and what was that process like?
Yeah, so it's a combination of the interiors, again, were just all in the garage. We kind of used the poor man's process, shook the car, flashed some lights, shook the camera, all that kind of stuff.
Trust us, guys, this will work.
Going, what? This is never going to work. And then for the exteriors, there was a combination of things, really. A lot of Elliot driving and me filming from the side of the road. A lot of car-to-car filming. We had 2 cars at the time, and we did that ourselves. And then we also did, as you said, we got the 2 of the actors, Tom and Arjun, came round to our house for one of the shoots and brought their cars with them. And we got them to drive really slowly on the roads. It was late at night and there was no one around. So we got them to drive really slowly. So when we overtook them at the speed limit, it looked like we were going a lot quicker than we were.
Yeah, they were doing something like 18 miles an hour, and the Volvo was weaving between them at a very safe, legal 40 miles an hour. Quickly cut with a bit of camera movement on it and some engine noise. It sort of sells it that there's a bit of a heightened.
And if you go back and watch that sequence, you'll just see the same cars over and over again.
Yeah, just overtaking.
They passed that car 4 times already.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's me again. Yeah. And then there's the one shot where the car goes through the traffic lights. That visual effects sort of. We filmed the cars going through the traffic light towards camera, and then the traffic crossing, and then in post production, Zander comped 2 shots together to make it seem like that was a near miss.
Nice, good job with it. And with the special effects, because there are some special effects, especially towards the end there and stuff. How long did it take you guys to do all that work? Counting the actual effects work and shooting,
Yeah, I mean, I did the visual effects.
Yeah.
Elliot did the sound. We were kind of doing them in parallel. I can't remember how long it took me, but
probably a year at least.
Yeah, I think there's about 170 visual effects shots in the film, which most of them are just. You wouldn't know. Hopefully, you wouldn't know they were visual effects. There's a lot of tree lines that we put in the background, stars in the sky, things like that, just to try and extend the world a bit. Because you get into the edit and you're looking at the footage and you've just got a pool of light and then black behind people, and you're like, this feels very low budget. So we did a lot of set extension stuff, and then towards the end there are big radio dishes and all sorts of things going on. So it took a while for one person, but
did you shoot that in front of a green screen then?
Yeah, we did some stuff. Some of the very last stuff in the movie where they are looking up to the sky, we shot that against the green screen, and then the stuff where they're looking, the wider shots where they're in the car park, that was shot at our old school. So we asked if we could film there, and they let us turn
on the car park.
We set up a little green screen on the car park. So
that's nice.
You mentioned there you worked on a number of shorts. Was it always sci-fi, or did you do different topics?
In fact, all our shorts have been slightly different, I think.
Yeah, they have.
We did. Is it 3 shorts we've done before Cosmos? I think
yes.
it is.
I'm going to say yes.
It's 3 or 4. One of them yeah, one of them was about First World War poetry, the first one we did. Another one was a little Victorian ghost film, Twilight Zone-esque ghost film. And in fact, another one was about a soldier and poetry, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
this, we've always loved sci-fi, but this is sort of our first serious venture into science fiction proper, really. But yeah, a variety of different. They're always, we grew up watching Spielberg and Amblin and Robert Zemeckis and all that. So our movies are very much about ordinary people, or our stories rather, are very much about ordinary people finding themselves in extraordinary circumstances and what do they do.
Alrighty. And in terms of the Cosmos, is there anything, looking back at it now, do you think you would have done differently?
I think the only thing I probably would have done is just ask for help. Get more people involved. It took us 5 years to make the film from start to finish, and we didn't think it would take that long. We thought it would take a year and a half to 2 years or something. So we were happy taking on board all that work ourselves when we thought it was going to take 2 years. But when it took half a decade to do, you go, actually, we should have just kickstarted a bit of money. That would have helped move things along a bit quicker. But the reason we did it was because Elliot mentioned before that we wrote a script for another film before Cosmos, another feature film. And we spent about 2.5 years trying to raise a budget for that film. We were quite young. We were like 19 and 21 at the time. And we just poured our heart and soul into this thing. We wrote a business plan. We worked with financial advisors, and we just kept getting the door closed on us. People just kept saying, well, you go away and make a movie and show that you can do this. And you're like, well, I'm trying to make a film and I need money to make a film. And we just got to the point where we were so passionate and so desperate to just get going that we just thought, let's not find ourselves in that position again. Let's just write a film that we can achieve with what we've got. We've got loads of computer screens because we edit. Let's put computer screens in it. We have this car. We know stuff about space. And we just tried to pull all these things together to tell a story that we could do with very minimal resources. So I think if I was to go back and start from scratch, I'd just be like, I'm going to kickstart some
2 or 3 friends,
get some friends, there are plenty of people in the community who are passionate and skilled and talented and eager. We're eager, the actors who are in it were eager. We all came together to make a movie, and it wouldn't be hard to find other people who want to come on board and work with us. So yeah, I would have done that.
Okay. And what's the status of the film at the moment then?
The status of the film Cosmos.
Cosmos, yeah.
Have you distributing it or festivals or?
So Cosmos was released at the end of 2019. It got picked up by a distributor in the US, Gravitas Ventures, and they released it. They did a short theatrical run in the States, so it was in 10 cities across America in theaters, which kind of blew our mind because we were like, oh, when we were on the call talking to them, they said we're thinking of doing a theatrical release on it, and we were like, oh, we played it very cool, like, oh yeah, okay. Can we double back to that? You said yeah, okay. And then when we hung up on the phone, we obviously ran around the garden and jumped and couldn't believe that had happened. So the film was released and it was available on VOD, and now it's available it's most available in the US, where it's on streaming. So it's available on Hulu and Prime Streaming and Tubi and all the platforms that are in the US, but it's slowly rolling out into different streaming in different countries, but it's available on VOD everywhere. So Amazon Prime or iTunes or whatever. So it's been out just over a year now, and we're very much blown away by how people have embraced it. We didn't really expect so many people to watch it and enjoy it and connect with it, because it's a very sincere movie. It's the kind of movie that we fell in love with as kids, and we wanted to make a love letter to the films that we grew up loving that inspired us to be filmmakers. But it's been quite heartwarming actually to see how many people are also yearning for more warmth in movies. We live in a time now where films can be quite cynical, actually, quite grounded and hard, and it's a tough world and everything's very straight down the line. And there might have been the potential that Cosmos was a film out of its time, really, a bit dated with its sincerity, but actually we've been surprised how many families and people have just come and gone, wow, thanks for making a movie that we can show our kids, and thanks for showing a movie that can ignite my interest in astronomy and all those sorts of things. So
particularly from last year as well. Everything that's going on, 2020, we had quite a few emails from people just saying, I found this because I was scrolling through the streaming platforms, and it brought a big smile to my face at a time when I needed it. So that's the biggest kind of thrill we could ever ask for, really.
Yeah, that's nice. Sorry, Carl, but I need to back you guys up on that too. For anyone watching or listening, because I totally agree with you guys. So many films nowadays are just like either big budget action flicks with these like quick cut action sequences. There's not a lot of like just slow paced, warm, that kind of leave you feeling good at the end type of films anymore. And I think that's one of the reasons. I think you're right that I think that is one of the reasons that this film works.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, Carl, go ahead.
No. Well, actually, I'll ask this slightly different question. Has it opened any doors for you? Like, have you made contacts and stuff? And
we've actually made contact with some incredible people in the industry. We've had people reach out to us who are like visual effects supervisors on things like Pirates of the Caribbean. They've stumbled across it. There's a Foley artist called John Rush. He's like the godfather of Foley. Like, you name any movie between 1970 and present day, he's literally done the Foley for it. He's just a legend, and he found it, loved it. But beyond just the kind of personal connection, we've made friends from a professional standpoint. We've got a manager now, and we're writing a script currently for a film that we're looking to raise a budget for and make in the UK. And that's all come from making Cosmos. So it's done the job it was designed to do, really.
So all that hard work is worth it. It's like you put in this blood, sweat and tears and make your own path, and it's so worth it then, isn't it? It's so satisfying.
It feels like it. It's certainly, we love movies and we want to work professionally in the industry, but being boys from Birmingham where there isn't much going on, it did feel like we had to do something insane. We had to do something silly that people would look at and go, and you've done what? Why would you do that? And then it opens that conversation, and it's helped. I think more than anything, it's helped demonstrate that we're serious about what we want to do. When we say we want to direct movies, people now go, okay, yeah, we'll take you seriously and let's have this conversation, because you've proven that when you say you want it, you really are going to go for it and do what it takes, which is...
It's funny because I was listening to an interview with Billy Bob Thornton, and Billy Wilder said to him, make your own stuff. And he made Sling Blade and won an Oscar. Do you know?
I actually do. Yeah.
It's so weird, man.
So so you make your own path,
So in terms of your current scripts, are you allowed to talk about it, or can you tell us what it's about even? Or?
Yeah, we can, I think.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah. I think there's no problem with that. So, you want me to do that, or you?
Yeah, you do it.
Me? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you do it.
So we're working on another science fiction movie, because we love sci-fi. And we have spent... Okay, so there's a story to this. Off the back of Cosmos, we were developing some different ideas that we were going to pitch to production companies and stuff like that. And then we were actually supposed to temporarily move out to Los Angeles last April. But, now, as we all know, the old coronavirus came along and scuppered those plans a little bit. So, which is fine. We still had those conversations on Zoom, and that's still moving along. But in that moment, we thought, will coronavirus be around for a long time? And I wonder what this means for filmmaking. So in that moment, we decided to also write another film, a new script that we felt we could make that's very contained and very COVID compliance friendly, very safe to make. So it's a one-person movie in a single set location, and that's really what we've been doing since about last May, and we've actually only at the end of February finished that screenplay. So it's a sci-fi mystery about a marine biologist who finds herself stranded in her one-person deep-sea submarine at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. She's down there doing science and studying hydrothermal vents and all sorts of very interesting stuff, but something mysterious happens and sends her submarine, paralyzes her submarine and sends it sinking down into the unexplored depths that are uncharted and people don't know much about. So while she's down there in a fight for survival to try and bring her sub back to life, and oxygen falling and water rising and all these sorts of struggles, she has an encounter. She comes across something that shouldn't be down there, that's mysterious and she can't explain, and ... the mystery of the movie ensues. So the idea there is that it's a single person submarine, so all we've got to construct is a small space capsule type set, and it's one actress, and it will just be fun to see if we can make that solo character movie, really.
It will be budgeted though this time. Yeah, we're never again are we going to make a completely no budget movie. So we are
okay.
We'll always make shorts and we'll always do things like that independently, but making a feature film on your own can be crazy.
We've done that, tick.
Yeah, we've done that. Tick. So, yeah, looking forward to just collaborating with others.
Anyway, it's not a massive movie, we're looking to work with still a very modest team of people. It's one set, so we don't need a massive crew, and it's just this capsule. So it'll probably be a team of 10 or 20 just making this movie, and the hope is that we might be able to film later this year and see what we can do. So that's what we've been working on while development in other avenues has been slowed down. So, but as is always the way, as you guys all know, you fall in love with things, don't you? You write stuff and you fall in love with it. They start as being side sort of options or quick fixes, and then you just fall in love with the idea and you're happy to pursue them anyway. So,
and you know what? It's interesting.
So is the script actually finished?
It is done, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
But COVID is giving writers, it's given the writers a huge opportunity, hasn't it, to kind of, it's given space to write and to create stuff. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise for writers, I suppose.
Absolutely,
yeah, I think so.
I think it is, and I think I don't know. I think we all know story and writing is so critical to the success of a movie and how people connect with it. And I think too often that process gets rushed and pushed, and writers get pushed from pillar to post. So I think you're absolutely right. This moment has allowed a lot of filmmakers, a lot of writers to step back and say, well, I've got some time, I can let this kind of simmer and mature, and I can come back to it and give it time. And I think it's been very valuable for story.
We might see some really cool films come out of this time, actually, because writers and maybe the studio system as well have had to just spend time on development, and might see some really creative, original ideas come out of it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting in the next few months.
Okay.
That's your script. Oh my God. That's amazing.
Out here first on no budget.
It might be rubbish, isn't it?
Well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Quite right.
So and in terms your passion project from when you were 19 and 20, are you ever going to make that, or is that completely shed?
Yeah, it's something we're keen to revisit the script, because we've probably matured a bit, I guess, since we wrote that, and but we do still love the story. I think it is still a great idea for a movie, and so yeah, we'd like to give it another pass on the script and see if we just have it ready. We've got a couple of ideas ideas book. We've done some pitch decks, and that movie will be one of them that hopefully we'll just have ready, and if the opportunity comes along, we'll see if we can make it.
Excellent. So as we ask all our interviewees, and you've probably covered this to an extent, but what advice do you have for our no budget audience and no budget filmmakers?
Oh wow. I would say my answer to this question, you should do one as well. Okay. I would say make sure when you're working on something that's no budget, our experience was it took a really long time, just because the money wasn't there to steamroll it forward. So I would say make sure you are working on a project that you absolutely adore, that you're passionate about, because we had many conversations about whether we should, for example, we hate horror movies. Like, we're such scaredy cats, we don't watch horror movies, but they're very popular, aren't they? It's a super smart, low budget, no budget avenue to take, because the monster is the star and it's fantastic. So we were like, well, maybe we should make a horror movie. But we, first of all, would be the world's worst horror movie directors. And also, it's not where our heart is. And there were really, really long days and hard times when we sat with our head in our hands going, oh, will this film ever end? And the one thing that made it always palatable was that we truly were in love with the movie that we were making. And no matter how hard it got, if we felt like we were being true to ourselves. So my advice would be write a film that you really love, that's really you. It's about you, or not about you, but it's from your heart. And don't worry about trying to please a certain audience. If you write from your heart, the audience that you write for will find your film. They're out there, and now has never been a better time to connect with that audience with streaming. You don't need to get in the theaters. You don't need to have huge marketing campaigns. The audience can find you. So write what you love and build it, and they will come, as a much more successful, better film once said.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think from a practical standpoint, look at what you've got available and make something. You know, it's probably what everybody says, but yeah, make sure you write something you think you can achieve. And also, I'd say when we were younger, we were quite focused on film. Everything was film, and if it wasn't related to film, then we probably wouldn't do it. And I'd actually say that through making Cosmos, I realized that a lot of the skills and the hobbies that weren't film related became relevant and became useful. I just so happened to enjoy 3D artwork, and so I could do the visual effects. And, you know, we picked up musical instruments when we were younger, and so that helped with the writing of the music with the composer and stuff. Little things like that that may not seem relevant directly to being a film director actually came in handy and helped get the film made. So I'd say don't get too blinkered by the fact that movies is what you love and what you want to do. Have that depth and breadth to your person, to who you are, because it will feed into your creativity.
Great. Well, yeah, great advice, guys. Okay, well, we had the Coen brothers, we had the Duplass brothers, and now we've got the Weaver brothers. So, thanks a lot for talking to us, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
Yeah, thank
cheers.
you so much. Thanks.